one of API 577 Welding Inspection Metallurgy full course. We shall tell you about the basic facts. So I'm going through you need to go to the course content and then go to basic facts. Module 1. We shall be talking about our e-learning services benefits, know about API certification in general and API 577 in particular, what you should expect on exam day, some useful exam tips, what you expect to know for API 577 building inspection exam, and API 577 course layout. Okay, where to start? There are 4 different leads to help you understand what type of question to expect during the examination. These are API 577 and its cross-references, for example, ASME Section 5 and ASME Section 9. Body of knowledge, or what you are expected to know for this exam. Exam score report, showing the areas where you are scored against and the number of questions from each topic. Experience of other candidates appeared for the exam. And regardless of which study plan you may wish or take, or which training course you opt for, these leads shall help you focus your efforts and act as a pulse check. You can start the self-study by collecting the reference material, that's API 577 and ASME Section 9. Now, ASME Section 5 is also included in API 577, what you need to know about NDT or NDE. But we have also brought it in our course here. So you know where is it coming from. And after getting this reference material, you highlight the relevant section and start crack. Obviously, you should save some money, but need considerable time plus missing on what we can offer to make your life easier. Your approach and study plan also is very important. API questions, exam questions do not normally use the statement directly from the codes and recommended practices, but they bring it within a context and scenario because they want to verify your understanding the concept and if you can apply them. If you memorize the facts and figures without understanding the concept, there is still a high chance of getting the question wrong because API questions are often rephrased. And also API wants you to answer, to choose the best answer. You might find a couple of answers that they are both correct. Choose the one that is more correct or a better answer. You can choose our training package that has the advantage of explaining core principles and concepts in an easy to understand format with ample pictures complemented with exam tips, flashcards, and 8 sets of quiz, practice, and mock exam question. Our mock exam question are very much in line with the real API exam question and aimed at sharing the concepts, how to apply these concepts, and how to avoid the loopholes and how to handle the trick questions. Please note that none of the API recommended practice and ASME code are intended for training purpose and therefore understanding them may be difficult at times. We shall explain all these topics in sufficient detail so the course could benefit all candidates with any level of knowledge and expertise. Our training approach helps you solve any relevant questions within any context and scenario, since you will be capturing the concept, principle, and the theory rather than memorizing some numbers or facts without understanding the underlying reason or their application. We do not claim that our e-learning course are the only option to pass the exam, nor we claim that our course would substitute studying API 577 and ASME Section 9 code and recommended practice. However, we do claim being one of the best API training providers because we shall explain the terms and definitions in an easy to understand format, provide you with lots of pictures, presentation, videos, and examples, so no matter what your level of knowledge on each topic is, you shall have the complete information and knowledge. Explain API 577 body of knowledge in an easy to understand and comprehensive way, and also highlight the areas where potential questions may come in the form of flashcards. Provide you with the concept, application and limitation of NDE methods, explaining applicable sections of ASME Section 5, explain ASME Section 9, applicable clauses and tables, WPS, PQR, WPQ, provide you with sets of mock exams in line with API exam question, and finally support you through a chat line, and we have a WhatsApp line here that you can always contact us for technical general queries, or if you have any access and IT issue, and we normally answer your question within minutes during working hours, or and API certification. API examination are divided into two main groups. Core exams, these are API 510, pressure vessel, 570 piping, and 653 storage tank, and others. This is 571 corrosion damage mechanism, 577 this course, a welding inspection metallurgy, 580 risk-based inspection, 936 refractory test, tank safety, 1169 pipeline construction, source inspector fixed equipment, and source inspector rotating equipment. All API examination held 3 times a year, and each API certification has 3-week exam window that you should choose from at the time of registration. Once you choose the 3 weeks window, that's frozen for you. To change the window is as good as failing. That's called rescheduling, so you have to pay the fees and reschedule it. So the 3-week exam window is frozen once you choose it at the time of your application. After registration and approval by API, you can select the location, date and time at a Prometric test center. Prometric is subcontracted by API to hold the computer-based exam. You can also opt for remote proctoring, where you can attend the exam from the comfort of your home and office. If you want to read more, you can click on this button or go to API ICP and look for remote exam or remote proctoring. The deadline to get the API authorization email is approximately 2 months or 8 weeks prior to the selected test window. To get the API approval in order to sit for a particular test, file the application form by registering with API ICP by using the link below, and you can click on this and you go directly to API ICP website and apply. That means register account, free account, and then pay the fees, select the course, select the test window, and provide references. And then upload the supporting documents, provide 2 references, and pay the fee. API shall verify your claimed experience by contacting via email the 2 references you have provided. It should be a company email for your references. It's recommended to brief your references so they know which inspection fees and for how long you have claimed the experience for. This would avoid any discrepancy that may result from your claimed experience against their verification. There are more than 3,000 Prometric centers across 160 countries that you can choose from. All Prometric test centers operate on a first-come, first-served basis. This is very important. Therefore, API cannot promise that you will be able to obtain a seat or to book a slot within that 3 weeks window at your preferred location, the test center. Hence, it's highly recommended that you may schedule or schedule your exam immediately after receiving your exam authorization notice email from API. Seats are not available, try a different date within the same window or choose another location. Please note that during registration with API, you are required to select one of the available 3-week time window. Once the time window is selected, you cannot change it, which means you can only attempt the exam within the selected 3 weeks window unless you decide to reschedule and pay the fees, which is as good as failing the exam. Remember, no show and failing to book a seat, or even inability, you're not able to book a seat at your preferred test center, is as good as failing the exam itself. They won't reschedule it for you for free if no seats available. Although the deadline to get your application approved to your selected test window is around 2 months, you might not be able to find a suitable available date, or worse, you might not be able to get a seat at your favorite test center within the allocated 3-week window if your approval authorization email is received late. So it is recommended that you register with API and get this around the email authorization around 3 to 4 months before your exam. So do not choose the next immediate test window, but choose the one that is 3 to 4 months away. This is especially important for API core exam that need a full day slot. For other exams such as API 577, there is normally a good chance of getting the convenient test location and date at the next available window. You can change the location and date within the allocated 3 weeks window up to 30 days before the last day of test window, free of charge, and between 5 to 29 days for a fee of $70 subject to availability. Normally it's possible to change the time and location for API 577. So book it. If you're in doubt, still book a slot, and then up to a month before, if there is if you want to change the timing or the test center, you still can try, and if subject to availability, you can do it free of charge. API gives each candidate 12 consecutive months to pass an exam beginning from the first scheduled test window. This means you can attempt an exam for a maximum of 4 times. If you do not pass the exam within a year for any reason, such as failure in the exam, fail to schedule the exam, no show at the scheduled date, or even because you were unable to find a slot at your convenient test center, then you have to apply all over again and pay the full fees. One of our trainees received the authorization notice for API 570 some 7 months before the selected test window, but he booked it. He tried to book it 2 months before the actual window. As a result, his closest test center in London was already full, so he had to fly to Amsterdam Prometric Test Center to attend the exam. Therefore, it is strongly recommended that you book your place as soon as you receive the API authorization notice or email. API certification, recertification, rescheduling, cost. API certification is valid for a 3-year term. An exam costs $365. For schedule and fees, you can click on the link below, or you go to API ICP website and look at the schedule and fees. After 3 years, you need to apply for recertification, demonstrating that you still work as an API inspector for 20% of the time, and recertification costs $260. You may apply for recertification 90 days prior to your certificate expiry date, or a 90-day grace period after that, and subject to a late application fee of $150. If an application not submitted by the end of the 90-day grace period, the certification will expire. This means you have to fill in a new application if you want to be certified, and attend the initial exam and pay the full fees again, all over again, to be certified. API inspectors are required to take an online open book quiz every 6 years in order to recertify. Each quiz has 25 questions that address the changes in relevant API codes over the past 6 years. You have a total of 4 hours to complete the quiz, and it may be paused or interrupted up to three times. If you fail the quiz, you will be able to take it again. If you fail the quiz the second time, you'll not be able to recertify. You need to submit a new application. Now, this quiz, you can do it within 4 hours and from the comfort of your home or office. It's an online one, and you can pause it up to 3 times. And it's just 25 questions of recent revisions on the API 577 ASME Section 9 that concerns the API 577 Welding Inspection certificate. So what happens if you fail the exam? If you fail, you need to apply for rescheduling and pay $150 re-examination. After requesting for a rescheduling and paying the fee, you shall receive again the approval letter or email authorization notice via email within a day or two. You shall then book your seat with the prometric as soon as possible, as you did for your initial exam. On exam day, make sure you reach the prometric test center or at least half an hour before the scheduled time. If you reach the test center 15 minutes after the exam, they may refuse to admit you. The same for remote proctoring. You need to be behind your desk and report that you are available to start the exam. Prior to letting you to sit in for the exam, they shall check your photographic government-issued photo ID, and it should be valid. Ask you to sign in, check you with a metal detector, and ask you to turn up your sleeves and trousers. Check your pockets, look at your reading glasses to ensure it doesn't have any camera, ask you a security question, date of birth, email address, and take your picture. You cannot carry anything with you except a bottle of water. No ornaments are allowed except the wedding ring. They shall supply you with a couple of green color A4 size paper and a pencil for taking notes, plus a simple calculator. This pen and paper, and the calculator is not available during the remote, so you have to and you cannot bring your own paper and pencil during remote proctoring, and you have to use the calculator if you need it, which is on the desktop, on the API exam desktop, not your computer desktop. And all this they do also online. ID verification, security question. They ask you to turn the laptop around or your desktop around so the invigilator can see through the camera, your desktop camera, that there is no paper and no other documents on the table. Nobody is allowed to enter the room, or nobody should be in the room when you are doing the exam. So there are those risks. You are not allowed to leave the room without the invigilator's permission to use, say, the toilet or to drink some water. So the same security applies when you do remote proctoring. And remember that you are required to have a valid government-issued photo ID card, such as a passport, driving license. Keep it with yourself during the exam. If you don't produce a government photo ID, or it's not valid, so it's treated as a no-show, and they will refuse to admit you to the exam, and you have to reschedule, and this is as good as failing. During 6:53, one of our candidates had an expired driving license but refused entry. He returned half an hour later with a valid passport, but at that time it was too late, Prometric said. As a result, he had to pay rescheduling fee $300 and appear for exam 6 months later. So make sure that to check that your photo ID is, or your driving license or your passport is valid. And as a plan B, carry two, just in case. It's just not worth it to be refused entry to the exam after all the efforts and time you put in. Prior to examination, you shall be given the key to a locker. If you're doing in a test center to keep your belongings, you're not allowed to use a locker until you have completed the exam. And immediately after completion of the exam, you shall receive an email notifying whether you have passed or failed. Your preliminary exam result may be preliminary pass, which is normally a pass. A marginal result too close to call may be a pass if you're lucky, and a preliminary fail, which is normally a fail, because this is the reason is that the final result comes after the scaling, and you should roughly answer 70% of the question correct. So it could be between 69 to 71%, and the scaling is done by API to standardize the level of difficulty of all the exams, and it's a scale between 400 minimum and 500 maximum. You shall receive your confirmed score up to 8 weeks after the last day of the 3-week examination window, sometimes sooner. It takes another 6 to 8 weeks after receipt of Confirm the score for the certification and the wallet card to arrive by post. Pass mark is 70%, minimum 400 on a scale of maximum 500 scorecard, no negative marking, therefore answer all the question. At the end, click review all buttons and peruse through the list to ensure that you have not skipped any question. Any skipped question or unattempted question will have a different color, normally black, rest are blue that you have attempted. You can challenge any question you may wish by writing on its comment sheet or caption, but please note that the clock keeps running, so you shall be spending the time to fill in the comment sheet from your allocated examination time. After ID verification, security check, and letting you to the examination room, you will first go through the tutorial, which lasts for maximum 10 minutes or earlier if you press the end button, and then the actual exam begins and the clock starts ticking. You can also see the remaining time on the right-hand corner of the computer screen. Remember, if during the exam you wish to leave the examination room for say using the toilet, you need to take your ID with you, report to the security outside the examination room and sign out. On return, you shall go through the same initial security check and sign in. During all this time, the clock is running. So make sure that you need to go out for toilet or drinking water as little as possible. Maximize your the time allocated to you. Sitting for an exam can be stressful, so try to have enough sleep the night before. On the exam day, just peruse the important parts of the reference documents or look at the figures and charts for a couple of hours maximum. Let your brain rest. You need to be alert and full of energy to endure the exam. Remember, your exam is not concluded until your time is up or when you press the end exam button and ask for confirmation to ensure that you have not pressed it accidentally. You shall also see the list of attempted and non-attempted questions at the end by pressing the review all button. This would ensure that you have not left any question unanswered. There is a frequently asked question in the Prometric website, how the exam is held. You can click on this link, or you can go to API ICP and look for Prometric and look for frequently asked question on their website. There is also this tutorial we just explained. It tells how the buttons work. You can also find the tutorial via the following link. You click on this or you go to API ICP website. You can read this tutorial before the exam, maximum up to 10 minutes, or if you end it earlier, the icons are simple and user-friendly. Remember, you can flag off those questions you are not sure of, so you can return to them during the remaining time. You can also right-click on the selected answers to eliminate them if you are confident that they are not definitely the wrong answer. This will narrow down the possible right answer and therefore increases your chances of getting the right answer. You can either review all the questions once again or review the flagged off question only during any remaining time left. You can see the remaining time at the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Remember that the clock does not stop for any reason whatsoever. The allocated time seems to be sufficient. Currently, due to COVID-19, you can attempt the exam, as we said, through the remote proctoring. You can click on this. That is end of Module 1. Thanks for listening, and we will see you at Module 2.